My name is Jose Rivera, aka Woodchuck, aka Cripple3030, and this is my prison story. I was raised in the Bronx at the age of 16, 1992. I actually got incarcerated for attempt murder on police and an armed robbery, and then I was sentenced to a 4.5 to 13.5. I did the sentence in Rikers Island, C-74. From there I went up north to a whole bunch of different maximum correctional facilities. I actually started at Washington Correctional Facility, which is a medium. I lasted there 2 weeks. I ended up committing an infraction, and from there I went to the Box, which is Southport Correctional Facility. Ended up in Casackie Correctional Facility and a whole bunch of maximum correctional facilities until I came home when I was 30 years old in 2005, and I came home to the Bronx. I came home out of Queensboro Correctional Facility, which is like I guess a halfway house or whatever, to where you can come back into society. Out of all the prisons that I was in, I would think that the most difficult I was in was in Attica Correctional Facility. The reason is because a lot of the correctional staff, they was extremely racist. They tend to have gangs that were against blacks and Spanish prisoners. They, just to give an example, they actually had a tattoo of a black baby hanging off of a noose on their arms. A lot of the officers had that tattoo on them. They was more town oriented than caring anything about New York City and where people came from. The only problem is that they tended to let that show, and the hatred showed a lot, to the point where they actually used to abuse a lot of the prisoners. A lot of the other prisons that I was in, I mean, obviously it's prison, so it's not meant to be like, not meant to be no camp or nothing like that. It's not a summer day camp. However, they tended to be a lot worse, based on the way it was like our side against their side, meaning the prisoners against the correctional staff, because a lot of the correctional officers, they tended to have something against us, like, you know what I'm saying, just because of the crimes we committed, just because we actually locked in their prisons, you know what I'm saying. They would seek retribution against us if we went and wrote grievances against them. If we did anything to voice our opinion that was an opposement to whatever they believed in. Well, firstly, the best way I handle prison is that I shut out my personal life. Anything that happened in New York, anything that happened in the streets, meaning, you know what I'm saying, I forgot all about it. I forgot about my loved ones. I forgot about everything. Because in all due reality, if you had your loved ones, you kept thinking about your loved ones, you kept avoiding to do things that you needed to survive. For example, like when I was incarcerated in C-74, a lot of the police, they used to abuse us. You know what I'm saying, to the point where they wanted to, they didn't let us get our rec, they didn't let us go to our law library to study our cases, to fight our cases. We ended up having to fight and physically fight for our rights. You know what I'm saying? If I tended to think about my mother or anybody else that I had in the streets, then it would make me hesitate, and it would make me even a worse victim. You know what I'm saying, when I got to the prison systems upstate, a lot of times, it was difficult, dealing with other prisoners. However, what was my end was that I was a humble guy, and a lot of people that tended to have the power, let's say, or the authority in the prison system itself. You know what I'm saying? They kind of respected the fact that I was a humble guy. Plus, on top of that, I was not scared. You know what I'm saying? I stood up for myself. If you stand up for yourself, you know what I'm saying, in there, you tend to get the respect of the older individuals and, the people that have the so-called power in there. You know what I'm saying? And they tend to, gravitate towards you. So that blessed me.
This is my prison story. 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 This is my prison story.
Well, as an example, I could give you a perfect example. When I was in Clinton Correctional Facility, I was in SHU, which is a special housing unit. That's where they actually put people that commit violations, that commit serious violations. And my neighbor actually wanted to write a grievance against a correctional officer, and because he did that, they starved him for 9 days straight. They actually turned off the water in his cell, didn't give him any food, any liquids or anything. And I'm saying for 9 days straight. Had it not been for me and a few other individuals that was on the company that would actually fish him food under his cell doors, he would have been seriously sick. Because after 3 days without drinking water at least, then you tend to start to get sick. Fishing, what I mean is that we used to actually take a string, put a bar of soap on as a weight, and toss it, slide it on the floor to the other cell, under the cell door. And we would take a Ziploc bag and put pieces of food in there, put liquids in there, just so he could drink and eat, so he could survive, so he won't get sick. But they did that only because he wrote a grievance against a correctional officer. The superintendent would come and walk by, and he would try to voice his complaints, and the captain and everybody else would tell, oh no, he's crazy, don't pay him any mind. And the superintendent would keep it moving and won't even pay it any mind, and would actually let him keep going under the same abusive conditions. Well, actually, I have been in incidents where I had to fight, to survive, to stand up for myself. I could go back to the beginning of my bid, where they actually tried to make me wash clothes at one point. That was actually just a test for everybody else to see. Since I didn't back down, I actually fought for my rights not to be able to do that. A lot of other people tended to give me my respect. As far as joining gangs, they never actually forced me to do anything like that. In all the reality, I was blessed as opposed to a lot of other prisoners, honestly, because of the fact that I was not afraid to actually get down and fight. I have numerous violations where I've assaulted people. I've done what I had to do just to keep my reputation, keep my name going, so that way people won't try me in them ways. But then nobody ever forced me to join anything, and that's probably why, because I was never willing to back down. I was always willing to stand up for myself. Honestly speaking, my sentence itself, it taught me a lot of patience. So I would think that that's the best lesson that I learned throughout my bid. It taught me to be patient. It taught me to understand that life is not meant to be fair. You know what I'm saying? Life is meant to be, it's sometimes stacked against you. But if you're resilient enough, you're able to overcome the odds. You know what I'm saying? Being locked in a cell 24 hours, you know what I'm saying, 23-hour lockdowns and so on and so forth, it tended to give me my patience and give me the time that I needed so that I could study and get into myself. So that would be the best benefit of it. Well, I would say my worst years would be 1992 to 1993. That probably would have been my worst year. I was on C-74 on Rikers Island, and what made it the worst was not necessarily what was going on around me, because even though that was a lot, it was the fact that my mother passed away and they didn't let me go to the funeral. Meaning the administration, they said that I was a security risk, and they didn't have enough time to secure enough vans and escorts to let me go to the wake or the funeral. So that kind of hurt me inside. That tore me up. It also became worse because on top of that, I'm fighting my case. I'm just coming in, I'm fresh. I don't know what's going on. And I'm 16 years old. It's a culture shock for me to have to deal with the change from me living with my mother and have to listen to all these rules and these orders and stuff from correctional officers, different correction staffs, and as well as dealing with different prisoners. So that, I would say that would be my worst. My best would probably be in 1998 when I was at Elmira Correctional Facility. The reason is because I actually started really getting into my education. I became a certified paralegal. I got onto the IOC, which is the Inmate Liaison Committee, where they actually let you sit down at a table with the superintendent, the deputy superintendent, and actually voice your opinion on behalf of the rest of the prison population. And I was actually able to tell the superintendent, yo, listen, you're wrong. This is not what goes on. This is not the way we should do this. This is the way we should do this. So in other words, I became, from being this low, this low prisoner that's just a number, I became somebody to actually be able to speak on behalf of the rest of the prison population and speak on behalf of their rights.
This is my prison story. 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 This is my prison story.
I was reincarcerated after that. I actually did a year, a 1.5 to 3, for a knife. I used to carry the knife as part of my job. I used to work for Domino's Pizza, and we used to use the knife to cut boxes and stuff like that. I left my job early that night to pick up my daughter's mother, who was pregnant with my daughter. And when I drove to pick her up, the police pulled me over, and they said that I took too long to lower my window. So they pulled me out of the car and they searched me and they found this knife. Because I was an ex-felon, they said that it was a felony for me to carry the knife. Even though my boss, my manager, came in and testified that I used it for work, they still gave me 1.5 to 3 years in prison for it. I ended up doing 1 year, and then the rest I did on parole because of good time. To deal with the nights, to deal with the lockdown, to deal with not being able to move from out of your cell, as opposed to being free out in the world, I actually escaped into books. I started reading a lot. I actually started working in the general library as a library clerk, and that benefited me because I could take out numerous amount of books, whatever topics that I liked it. I liked to read a lot of espionage. I would also do a lot of studying. I became a certified paralegal. I started studying business. And I really went into the books. Like, I was really gone. Like, I wasn't in my cell anymore. I would just like go into the books and I'd be wherever the book takes me. You know what I'm saying? If I didn't do that, my mind would be stressed. You know what I'm saying? I would be pacing my cell. I'd be stressed out about what's going on. Wondering what's happening in the streets. Wondering what's happening with my friends, with my family. Why they're not writing me. Why they're not visiting me. And so on and so forth. So I always escaped into the books. Well, honestly speaking, my personal message to anybody that's never been incarcerated before, whatever you're doing, I would say stop doing it if it's gonna land you in prison. If whatever you're doing, you need to do it for survival purposes, whatever it is, learn what your rights are. You know what I'm saying? Learn what you're facing. You know what I'm saying? Do your research, find out what goes on in there. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to get into something that you don't know about. You know what I'm saying? So you definitely want to know what's going on in there. And that's really no place to live. You know what I'm saying? You don't really want to go in there and just, you know, blow your whole life away. Keep trying to do what you're doing out here. You know what I'm saying? In the streets. Try to get a job. Try to, you know, survive the right way. So that way you don't have that hanging over you. You know what I'm saying? As far as whether or not I will go back, I worked a lot. I got my own radio show. I got my own called Back to Cripple3030 right here at DSM, where we're doing the interview right now. You know what I'm saying? I got my own clothing line, Fam Clothing Company. I got my own promotion company called 3030 Entertainment. You know what I'm saying? I work as a construction worker. You know what I'm saying? I've done a lot to try to get away from that lifestyle, so that way I don't go back to jail. You know what I'm saying? The only reason I would see myself even being put in that type of situation, you know, my family would have to be threatened. You know what I'm saying? My life, my security. You know what I'm saying? I don't ever go against my ethics. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe in the crab mentality where I snitch on people so that I could try to come up. So I would never do that. So, you know, if I'm put in that situation, then that might be the only time I would take that risk. But other than that, I think I worked too hard to get to where I'm at now. to be able to put my family through that. You know what I'm saying? I got 4 stepchildren, I got 1 daughter, I got a wife. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm doing good with my life right now. I don't want to see myself in that position. I don't see myself putting myself there.
Quick question before we go. What do you got to say? Like, how was it? What do you have to say, or you could explain to the people if it's really hard to get a job and to get work coming from prison? Like, what do you have to say about that?
Well, honestly speaking, it's made harder by society, because society tends to put a weight on our ex-convicts' shoulders about reintegrating back into society, but yet nobody wants to deal with us. You know what I'm saying? When we go in, we apply for a job, they do background checks on you. When they see these past criminal histories, they tend to say, oh, well, don't worry, we'll call you. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times that means that they're never going to call you. And it's because of your past criminal history. They don't know what you've been doing lately. They so busy judging you on your past. You know what I'm saying? I believe that it's a lot better for people to, you know what I'm saying, to base their judgments based on what you're doing right now. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of people in society, meaning the employers and stuff like that, tend not to. So it makes it harder for us to get jobs that we're trying to get. You know what I'm saying? For example, I'll give you a perfect example. I'm a certified paralegal. I came home from prison when I was 30 years old with my certified paralegal certificate, and I actually walked to lawyers' offices and I said, listen, I understand that it's difficult to hire an ex-con, so I'm willing to work for free for 6 months. I give you 6 months free service. If you like me after that, then you hire me. If you don't like me, then I move on. And they even turned that down. You know what I'm saying? That just goes to show you that sometimes our skills ain't compatible with the jobs that they're willing to offer us. You know what I'm saying? Some people come out with managerial position skills. They don't want to put them in the office with people. They'd rather put them in construction sites. They'd rather put them in places where they can hurt themselves, places where they use their brawn instead of their brains. You know what I'm saying? And that's not consistent with trying to help us reintegrate to society. That's my belief.
I'm on lockdown and I'm away from my fam. This bit is long, son, you wouldn't understand. These fucking COs got these cuffs in my hands. They treat us like animals inside this prison land. My parents just died, I couldn't go to their funeral, and my kids are grown on me. I know that they're beautiful, I'm just wondering when I'ma get a visit. I wanna go home, I'm tired of living